I wanted to do kind of a shallow dive into some Git commands using a recent catastrophe that we had on my team. And it was a perfect example because it really shows the differences between merge and rebase, as well as fetch and pull. So we'll kind of start with this classic visualization where Git version control is basically a singly linked list. And we should have kind of a clue with that because the most recent commit is called ahead. So as you're going through and coding, you're making a series of commits. And each one of these commits is a copy of the whole code base, including your new changes, not just the difference between those changes. And this is important, and we'll circle back to it later. So when you have some code ready, you want to merge it into another branch. In the simplest scenario, you're basically just taking that shorter linked list and kind of appending it to the top. Your latest commit becomes your new head. And when you're doing a rebase, it's basically, you're forcing yourself to treat it like a singly linked list. But Git merge is a totally different animal. So when you're using Git merge, you're actually telling Git to make decisions for you. And what it will do is choose one of 6 different merging strategies and then do that. I don't have time and I don't have illustrations for these different strategies, but I really encourage you to look them up yourself. So let's kind of fast forward to a few months ago. I was working on a budget application, Rails obviously. I was the only person working on it at that time, and so I was using a rebase workflow. There were a bunch of new features, some refactors that I'd done. It was ready for production. So my test suite was passing locally, coded past QA, and I handed it off to someone else to load it into prod. And that happened, and prod blows up. I was trying to figure out what happened. I was checking the server logs. I was checking Git history. I was looking through individual commits, checking the terminal command history because I just couldn't figure out what I was seeing. The code that existed in master in our repo was not the code that was existing in the master branch on prod. So what was happening? How did I have code that had been deleted or moved around weeks or months ago that was still there right alongside the new features? Well, long story short, the culprit was Git pull. Okay, so technically the culprit was miscommunication, but that could be a different lightning talk or a different series, right? So for this presentation, technically the culprit was Git pull. So when I was first learning a rebase strategy, I had talked to senior developers about it and kind of asked, why shouldn't I use Git pull? And they were like, no, just don't use Git pull. And I got kind of weird explanations like, just don't do it. So this time I was like, I'm just going to look it up. And I found out that Git pull actually calls Git merge under the hood. And now my catastrophe made sense. I had been using a rebase workflow. And in using my rebase workflow, I was changing things when refactoring, when adding new things, and I was changing the commits themselves so that they had a different commit SHA. We ended up having a different set of history in the master branch in the repo than what existed on prod. So now if someone ran git pull in prod, Git would have to go back farther and farther to try to find a commit that matched so then it could start doing its merge. And then it tried to merge these kind of incompatible branches together as best it could. So it was luckily a pretty easy fix. Basically, communication fix, yes, but also we just kind of agreed we're all going to use the same script in all of the environments. And we basically did a hard reset in prod's master to make sure that its code exactly matched the code that we had in the repo. So it's kind of an anticlimactic ending. But I hope that you maybe learned a couple things that you didn't know, or if you're a newer developer, that you learned some things that you definitely didn't know about these. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. So thank you.